Hello, welcome back to the MOOC course on Studies in Theatre. Today's lecture is Performance Movements and Styles in continuation from the previous lectures on the same topic. So dear students, I hope that you are enjoying these lectures and you have learned a couple of things which have interested you in going forward in studies in theatre as your area of research or any other thing in your life. Now let us take a look at some more performance movements and some more styles which are of significant value for our discussion. Now we come to the theatre of cruelty. This is originated from this movement originated in 1931 and expressed by Antonin Artaud emphasizes the necessity of cruelty for theatre, stating without an element of cruelty at the root of every spectacle, theatre is not possible. Key characteristics include the belief that dance and gesture convey deeper meaning than words, extreme emotions and actions arise from a lack of control, and plays serve as an outlet for dreams and hidden emotions. So this violence is a very important paradigm in this kind of theatre because it seeks to influence the performance, or it seeks to use performance as a matter of opening up and unraveling various hidden dreams and emotions, and that becomes a kind of violence. So this violence is very layered, and this violence is in various perspectives. Then moving on, it's in this theatre, the cruelty, there are no limits to how theatre can evoke emotions or achieve its objectives. It's very limitless. It's a kind of thing where anything can happen on stage. It aims to move, shock and deeply involve the audience in the performance. Artaud's sole play based on his theatre of cruelty concept was Les Sensei, partially adapted from Shelley's 1819 verse drama. Shelley's play was completed in 1819 and this play tells the gruesome and tragic story of the Sensei family, focusing on the character of Beatrice Sensei, who is subjected to terrible abuse by her father, Count Francesco Sensei. The plot revolves around the family's struggles, including the father's tyrannical behavior and the family's attempt to escape all this. So eventually the family members become entangled in a murder plot which leads to their downfall. So this play is exploring familial dysfunctioning, abuse of power, justice and revenge. Shelley's portrayal of the Sensei family's suffering and the moral dilemmas they face makes it a very powerful play. And that play has been made even more powerful through the use of the theatre of cruelty by Artaud. Artaud's works have significantly influenced various artists including Jean Genet, Jerzy Grotowski, Peter Brook and Romeo Castellucci. So you can see that how a story which is inherently very gruesome in its storytelling, in its action and the plot line, and then that is taken forward as a premise to showcase the emotional revelation of a very violent kind, and that becomes the theatre of cruelty. Now moving on, what we see here is theatre of the absurd, emerged in post-World War II, characterizing plays of absurdist fiction by European playwrights in the late 1950s. This kind of theatre encompasses a style of theatre focusing on existential themes, depicting the consequences of human existence, lacking meaning or purpose, and breakdowns in communication. Now this term, theatre of the absurd, was coined by Martin Aslin in his 1960 essay. The term focuses on playwrights like Samuel Beckett, Arthur Adamov and Eugene Ionesco. Estlin identifies their plays as having common themes as the absurd, defined by Ionesco as lacking purpose, goal or objective. Another important thing to understand theatre of the absurd is to look at the Albert Camus' essay Myth of Sisyphus, which is a very significant text to take forward the understanding of theatre of the absurd. This essay was written by this French-Algerian philosopher Albert Camus. It was first published in 1942. The central metaphor of this essay is the myth of Sisyphus, a figure from Greek mythology. In the myth, Sisyphus is condemned by the gods to push a heavy boulder up a hill, only to have it roll back down every time he nears his futile and meaningless tasks for all of eternity. So this punishment is never going to be over, and he has to continue doing this exercise of taking the boulder up, and the boulder rolls down the moment it is kept there. Now Camus argues that the face of the absurd individuals have three possible responses. One is suicide. One can choose to end life in the face of the absurd, but Camus rejects this option as it merely avoids the problem rather than addressing it. Then religious faith. Some people turn to religion to find meaning and purpose. However, Camus, who was an atheist, criticizes this response as an attempt to confront the problems directly. Now the third option is acceptance of the absurd. Camus proposes that individuals can embrace the absurdity of life and find meaning in the act of defiance itself. This involves accepting that life is inherently meaningless, but choosing to live authentically and passionately in spite of it. So Sisyphus in Camus' view becomes a symbol of the absurd and an absurd hero who perseveres in the face of seemingly pointless existence. So the myth of Sisyphus is a foundational text in existentialist philosophy and has a profound influence on literature as well as drama. It remains a thought-provoking and enduring work that continues to resonate with the readers, artists, audience, and therefore it has its significant discussion in theatre of the absurd. Now, what are the qualities of the theatre of the absurd? The structure of the plays often follows a circular pattern, with the ending mirroring the beginning. Instead of logical construction and argument, the plays prioritize irrational and illogical speech. As you have seen in the dialogues of Waiting for Godot, plays like No Exit, Ionesco's plays, the ultimate conclusion in many of these plays is silence, emphasizing the absurdity of existence. So we cannot run away from our existence, it has to be faced, and it is absurd to fight against it, and therefore the ultimate thing is to accept it and imagine that the situation is happy, we are fine. This style of writing was popularized especially by Eugene Ionesco's play The Bald Soprano. Now we have discussed Waiting for Godot a couple of times, but here is a picture from The Bald Soprano. It is a famous absurdist play. And Ionesco was a Romanian French playwright. It was written in 1948, and this is one of the key texts of the absurd movement, which emerged in the mid-20th century, as I have already told you. It often featured absurd and illogical situations, characters and dialogue to highlight the meaninglessness and alienation of existence. This is a one-act play. It satirizes the banality and superficiality of bourgeois society. The plot revolves around two couples, the Smiths and the Martins, who engage in insane and disconnected conversations, often filled with cliches, non sequiturs, unfolds their and absurd statements. So as the play progresses, it unfolds, their conversations are becoming increasingly absurd, revealing the breakdown of communication and the absurdity of their existence. So one of the recurring themes in the play is the idea that everyone in the world is interchangeable and that people's identities are meaningless. The title itself, The Bald Soprano, is an example of this theme, as it suggests that the characters could be anyone, even a bald soprano. Ionesco's play highlights the absurdity of language, social conventions, and the meaninglessness of human interactions. This play is also known for its use of language and dialogues to create a sense of alienation, which is the case with most of the absurd plays. Language plays a very important role in absurd theatre because the inherent quality of language to create communication is sought to be undone, it's sought to be subverted by making the language stand for meaninglessness and breakdown of communication. And that creates a very interesting situation that makes people, laugh, smile, and also irritated, and that's what the whole thing is absurd. Now, the next movement is Expressionism, which is a cultural movement that began in Germany at the onset of the 20th century, initially manifesting in poetry and painting. Now, Expressionist artists prioritize conveying the meaning of emotional experiences over physical reality and developed as an avant-garde style before the World War I. It rejects realism, believing truth resides within humanity. On-stage appearances may be distorted to reveal eternal truths. Expressionist works dramatize the spiritual awakening or sufferings of central characters, often depicting struggles against societal norms and authority. The key characteristics of this kind of theatre is that it includes presenting the world subjectively, distorting reality for emotional impact, and evoking specific moods and ideas, movement and speech in expressionist theatre. And that is often heightened also. It is very expansive and it delivered in a clipped, broken, telegraphed manner. The primary aim of expressionism in theatre is to create a spectacle, offering audiences an immersive and illusionary experience. Murderer, The Hope of Women by Oskar Kokoschka, written in 1907 and premiered in 1909 in Vienna, stands as the important representation of this kind of theatre. Now, this play was primarily known, although the playwright was primarily known as a painter, but he also wrote. The play is considered a very significant work of expressionist drama and is characterized by its exploration of themes related to sexuality, gender roles, and the human psyche. It was written during a period of artistic and intellectual upheaval in Europe when artists and writers were challenging traditional societal norms and conventions. This play features just two characters, man and woman, who engage in a dialogue that explores themes of power, domination, and sexual desire. The woman, frustrated by the limitations of her existence, expresses a desire for more assertive and dominant partner. The man in response presents himself as the murderer who can fulfill her desires by exerting his power over her. The play's title, with its provocative juxtaposition of murderer and hope of women, hints at the subversion of traditional gender roles and expectations. Kokoschka's work challenges societal norms and explores the complexities of human relationships and desires, as is indicated in the storyline that I have just now put before you. This play is an important early example of expressionist theatre. So the provocative theme, the language, the presentation, and all is part of the avant-garde movement Expressionism, and therefore it's a crucial example of the kind of theatre that was done at that time. And now we come to Constructivism. Constructivism is an early 20th century art movement established in 1915 by Vladimir Tatlin and Alexander Rodchenko. In 1922, Meyerhold, a famous dramatist, director, staged his first constructivist performance of The Magnanimous Cuckold by Ferdinand Cromlink. The set, designed by Popova, featured a three-dimensional bare wooden construction with windmill blades evoking the play's Flemish origins. Characterized by abstraction and austerity, constructivist art sought to mirror modern and industrial society and urban environments. The movement opposed decorative stylization and instead embraced the industrial assembly of materials. Now, Tatlin and Rodchenko, these are two very prominent Russian artists, and it's significant to understand how they were creating the whole, they were channelizing their art into theatre and giving birth to a very interesting kind of theatre culture, theatre movement, which we are right now discussing. So, Tatlin's work extended beyond visual arts into theatre and stage design. So, where he applied his constructivist principles to create functional and dynamic sets for avant-garde theatre productions. So, he was teaching at Moscow State Technical University, and therefore he played an important role in disseminating his ideas about art, design and theatre, and through which achieving a kind of a separate movement or a sub-movement. Similarly, Alexander Rodchenko, he was a pioneer in development of graphic design and was known for his innovative use of typography, geometric shapes and bold colors. So, he was also a key figure in Russian avant-garde photography movement and is renowned for his innovative photographic experiments such as extreme angles, etc. Now, his work reflected in the ideology of the Soviet Union. So, both have played very important role, and you can in shaping the visual and artistic language of the early Soviet Union. Now, they are figuring here in the discussion of constructivism because this movement was established by them and it was taken forward in the form of presentation scenario by directors like Meyerhold, whose his name is Vsevolod Meyerhold, but he is generally referred as Meyerhold. What he does is, Meyerhold's contributions are like biomechanics. He developed a system of actor training called biomechanics, which focused on the physicality and movement of actors on stage. Then agitprop theatre was also part of Meyerhold's discussion. Now, coming to constructivist set design, Meyerhold collaborated with these two people, and these designs featured abstract and geometric elements reflecting the artistic and architectural trends of the time. He was also known for his experiments from staging with form and staging. So, he sought to break free from the constraints of traditional theatre and often used the montage, fragmentation and non-linear narrative structures in his productions. His productions were visually striking and challenged the conventional norms of theatre. So, this is about constructivism, and when you look at the whole scenario, it looks like this. This is a very important representational scene. When I said the geometrical figures and the whole visuality of this theatre, Meyerhold aimed to integrate circus and acrobatic elements into serious theatre during this period. Constructivism represented Meyerhold's endeavour to create a setting that functioned as machine for acting. So, this much about this particular movement, and you can see how different kinds of movements are enriching the different ideas, bringing in different ideas into theatre and are widening the spectrum of theatre. Then we come to Futurism. Futurism is an Italian art movement of the early 20th century sought to capture the dynamism and energy of the modern world. Umberto Boccioni's sculpture, Unique Forms of Continuity in Space, is emblematic feature of futurist art. The movement was initiated by Italian poet Filippo Tommaso Martinetti in 1909. Futurist theatre, integral to the movement, features short scenes, nonsensical humor, and efforts to challenge and undermine theatrical conditions, traditions through parody and other methods. So important futurist works are mentioned here, Boccioni's work and Balla's work. Looking at some kind of if you look at this particular picture, it tries to capture the speed plus sound, and that is a representation of Boccioni's ideas, Boccioni's art and style. So this is an influence, how it influenced theatre is a very significant thing, because the stagings on this on stage, this kind of scenario was created through set design, actions and acting and costumes and dialogues of the characters. Look at this play. This is a reference to one style which is inspired. This is a pantomime by Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, and characteristics of this futurism in theatre include improvisation, aiming to shock and provoke audiences, breaking the fourth wall, and prioritizing art over financial gain or audience enjoyment. Futurists embraced the speed and machinery of the modern metropolis while rejecting traditional values. Futurist movement performances depicted the audiences as a passive target of the artist's sensory assault. And they praised variety theatre, vaudeville and music hall for their lack of tradition and recent discovery. Now, Cocktail, which is mentioned here, it's a pantomime written by this Tommaso Marinetti. Marinetti's best known work, he was participating in this futurist theatre. This Cocktail is an experimental work, and it represents the futurist fascination with new art forms and multimedia experiences. The pantomime was written in 1913 and is characterized by its non-verbal, abstract and fragmented narrative. It incorporates elements of dance, music and visual effects to create a dynamic and sensory experience. Marinetti sought to capture in this play the essence of modern urban experience with its fast-paced and chaotic nature. The performance aimed to break free from conventional theatrical conventions and embraces the principles of futurism. So although it is not a very well-known kind of a production, it remains a significant example of futurist experimentation with new art forms and the integration of multiple artistic disciplines into a single performance. So various kinds of discipline, graphic designing, music, camera work, set designing, all come together to create an impact. You can see the characters standing on the stage appear like puppets, and the graphics which are drawn as the set design are enhancing the impact of this picture and its impact on the audience. So in this lecture we have discussed about various movements. I hope you have got this idea. As you can see, this is futurist theatre that we have discussed today, and we have discussed constructivist theatre. Then we have discussed the theatre of expressionism, influenced by expressionism. Then we have discussed the theatre which is part of the absurd movement, that is theatre of the absurd. Then the theatre of the cruelty. So these are for this lecture, and you can see that I have mentioned the sources where I have taken these pictures from. I am mentioning it here. If you want, you can use this, and so these are the different movements that we have discussed today. Now there are few more in the next lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.